Roller game is an exciting battle of technique and speed. Just before the competition, a young man named Donald J. Boy appears with his girlfriend Maria. Everyone but the Dark Knights is excited to hear about DJ Boy. Willing to do anything for victory, the leader of the Dark Knights kidnapped Maria. DJ Boy will have to defeat the Dark Knights to rescue his true love. DJ Boy was originally released in the arcades around 1989. It would get a Sega Genesis port in 1990 that plays a bit more differently than the arcade port is based on. While both games look similar at a glance, there are some important differences that stand out. But this is a video on the Genesis version, so that'll be a topic for another day. Speaking of the Genesis version, for an early beat 'em up, this game doesn't look too bad. The controls seem responsive, the graphics and sound are good, and while there aren't many moves to perform, the gameplay can be satisfying. As usual, I'll save my personal opinion on this game at the end. For now, let's go over the controls. As expected from an early Genesis game, a 3-button controller is more than enough. The controls are A, which is punch, B is kick, and C is jump. You can perform a jump kick by pressing B during a jump, or you can perform a double punch by pressing A and B at the same time. All of your attacks will vary in reach, speed, and strength. As for the gameplay, you can think of this game as a beat 'em up on ice. Most of the stages are auto-scrollers in which you must avoid obstacles and defeat enemies along the way. As you defeat enemies, they'll drop money which can be used to buy health and upgrades in between stages. You can get away with not fighting at all during the auto-scrollers, but there are some sections where the scrolling will stop and you won't be able to proceed until you defeat all enemies on screen. Now there are two important things you should know about this game. First off, your experience with this game will depend on the region you played it in. The US version seems a bit more difficult than the Japanese version. Both versions will have some major differences and you'll see them in the Longplay. Second, this game is incredibly difficult. Unless you have a lot of experience in playing beat 'em ups or you've played this game before, there's a good chance you might see a few game overs before you finish this game. You only get one life and it takes a while until you get an extra life. I think I've said enough, so now onto the Longplay. I will be commentating over it to give more context on this game, but if you want a complete guide that explains everything this game has to offer, you can click on the link in the description. Without further ado, let's start the game. Alright, and welcome to the Longplay of DJ Boy. Now, on the left you see the US version, and on the right you see the Japanese version. And it did take me, on the right side, it did take me, you know what, hold on, let me pause this real quick. Future Zach, can you, what was I gonna say? Can you show, like, a short death montage of the attempts I had on the Japanese version? Not all of them, but, like, enough to prove a point that I kinda had a hard time doing it. Alright, thank you. And if you couldn't tell from that montage, it was a bit rough. Like, I didn't really buy any upgrades. You'll see that here as well, in which I try to go through most of the game without buying any items. Alright, let's start the game. I am playing on normal on both sides, which is the highest difficulty the game has to offer. And as you can see in the Japanese version, there's actually some story, which is pretty cool. Now, the weird thing is that you see these images in the manual of the US version, so it's kind of weird that they just took it out of the US version completely. Like, you can see that game just starts and the video is paused. So, this is the first stage. I already mentioned the controls in the guide. I'm actually recording this before doing the intro, so I'm pretty sure I mentioned the controls. You know, A punch, B kick, and C is jump. And yes, DJ Boy is a beat 'em up on ice. And this game is very difficult if it's your first time playing. You can, I feel like maybe you can beat it on your first try if you're like pretty decent at beat 'em ups, but like a lot can go wrong if you're not paying attention or if you don't get used to the controls right away. Now, the first stage is pretty easy. It's just a bunch of enemies. There are a few obstacles, and you might notice that the background in like both versions are different. Like in the left side you see the the graffiti and the brick wall, but in the Japanese version you just see like the ocean and whatnot in the gate. And heck, even in this section, like 3 enemies is on the right side in the Japanese version and 4 enemies is on the left side. And that could be seen as like the US version being harder, but there is one important difference that I will talk about after the stage is over. So yeah, even though it is 4 enemies, at least you get more money from it because each enemy like drops a coin, and like all coins are worth 20. And if you hit that small guy, you always get a burger in both versions. Now, I don't know if this is an emulation issue, but it seems that the colors in the US version is a bit more bright, like vibrant, I should say. I'm not sure. I might have to like actually test it on console on my own time. But yeah, other than that, this part's really simple. And here comes the first boss. Now, on the left side, you see the boss spawn with a small enemy. Easy to deal with. You can just kick him right there. Now on the right side, I'm using the attack canceling technique. I don't think I mentioned this in the intro. I probably should have, but if you keep alternating between punch and kick, you can like cancel the animations and like you have no recovery frames, which allows you to like perform a combo pretty much. Now on the left side, I'm using nothing but jump kicks, which is technically a safer option. Jump kicks in general are the strongest attack in the game, but they're hard to land against like... I feel like against the regular enemies they are hard to land. They're hard to land like... What am I saying? It's hard to land jump kicks on regular enemies, but against bosses it's pretty easy in my opinion. There we go, so... Yeah, an easy boss if you know what you're doing. It can get messy if it's your first time. I wouldn't be surprised if, whatchamacallit, like, this was the only stage some people have seen. And I'm not even going to talk about the skin color differences. It's, let's just say the Japanese version is a little bit insensitive. So, on the Japanese side of the game, you see the ice cream that increases your max health, the roller skates that increases your movement speed, the punch increases your attack speed, the helmet increases your defense, and the power increases how strong your attacks are. The cat gives you an extra life. It's very expensive. You'd have to like either skip out on items or just like wait until the end of the game where you have a lot of money to spend on. So before I mention how, well, there's so much to talk about. Well, as you can see, the left side, the US version is kind of messed up. You're pretty much playing the game in the dark. I don't know why it's like this. There's even obstacles that aren't even on the Japanese version. It's screwed. I'm sure I mentioned in the intro at least that the US version is just much more difficult in general. It's not... I don't think it's that much more difficult because if you can't tell from the health bars, every time you beat a stage in the US version, you actually get an increase in max health, like 2 bars. And unlike the Japanese version, it's not something you have to buy, you just like get it automatically. Like you beat the stage and you already have the 2 HP bars, whereas in the Japanese version, you see that ice cream item I talked about earlier, where you need to buy it to increase your max HP by 2 bars. And that costs 200 coins, so like, it makes it very difficult to afford upgrades early on, unless you actually skip out on it. So while this is happening, this is a good time for me to mention, the Japanese playthrough, I won't be buying any upgrades into the very last stage, and I'll talk about that when we get there on why I just buy it at the very end. And the US version, I'll just buy upgrades along the way because it can be done without upgrades, but it's very difficult. I mean, look at the left side, look at the bowling balls, it's insane. But again, it can be done, it just takes a lot of patience. So yeah, pretty much, the left playthrough, I was just messing around. I didn't really take it as seriously since I was buying upgrades, whereas with the Japanese playthrough, since I wasn't buying any upgrades, I kind of had to make every hit count, so I took it a bit more serious. So, just waiting for the right side to finish, and now to fight the boss. I know I don't do commentary often, I'm sorry if I'm like stuttering or if my English is bad. Left side, it's a mess. There are bowling balls falling up like over and over. And the right side, it's much easier. Like I said, the US version of this game is a bit harder. Now, thankfully, in the US version, I think I didn't do this boss fight long enough to see if they permanently, like, the bowling balls permanently stop. But it seems like when they come back a second time and then stop again, it just almost never comes back. I'd have to, like, play this boss fight long enough to see. But usually I could defeat the second boss before, like, the bowling balls respawn a second time. So yeah, pretty easy fight, just stick with nothing but jump kicks. If you try to kick him normally, it gets really messy because he just instantly counter with his own kick. So yeah, just stick with jump kicks in that fight and you'll be good. Pretty much similar to the first boss fight, except you can't get away with attack canceling, it can get really messy. So the left side, I get some health, I get one of the upgrades, I don't know which. I think I get power. Okay, I get defense. Oh, I remember why, because this stage, oh boy, I get to talk about this one. So, as you can see on the Japanese version, it's not an auto-scroller, it's actually a stage where you have to move right in order to proceed. The US version is an auto-scroller, and it's a pain in the ass. Because it's... I don't know how to explain it. I mean, it's just pure chaos, really. If it's your first time playing this stage, you're going to get hit. I don't care how good you are at video games, you are going to get hit no matter what. So on the right side, it's a bit more manageable because you can go at it at your own pace. That's not the case with the left side, it's just going faster and faster. Now thankfully they do alleviate the pain a little bit. They give you a bunch of coins that you can collect just by like walking through them, you don't have to defeat enemies. But still, there's just so many enemies, and when it comes to the skateboarders and the characters on the unicycle, they just damage you just by touching you, which is very annoying. Whereas with most of the other enemies, you like when they touch you, they don't hurt. They only hurt when they actually like punch or kick you. You know, I mean, they actually try to attack. But like when it comes to like the skateboarding and unicyclists, it's fucked. Okay, it's really screwed. So, yeah, like look. It's insane! But I did get a lot of practice in, so it's not as bad, but if this is your first time, it can get really messy. Now, thankfully, it does stop soon, and I think I gotta defeat a few enemies here before the boss actually appears. Yep, there they are. And yeah, the Japanese version, you can just take your time, but I prefer like trying to go fast because I don't want too many of those skateboarders and unicyclists to spawn. But yeah, right when you defeat this last enemy, the boss will spawn immediately. Now, this boss is 2 clowns. You might realize the color palette difference too, in which like the boss on the left is like white, blue, and red, but the boss on the right is white, blue, and pink. A pretty simple boss. It's easy. You can get overwhelmed if you let them gang up on you. Jump kicks are good if you can land them, but if you can't, then ground kicks are just as effective because they have good reach. They can just barely outreach their attacks, and yeah, it's not too bad. They both share the same life bar. They have 5 bars each, so it's hard to tell like how much damage you did to each of them until they actually defeated. And geez, there's so much to talk about. I can't even talk about the explosions happening on the left, but you see that on the right side too, so I get to talk about that. Now we gotta wait for the Japanese Longplay to finish his job, and well, Japan, whatever you want to call it. Now when you defeat them, they turn into these heads. You can't really do anything about it. I think if you hit them a few times, you actually push them back, but they just follow you again. And yeah, you just gotta keep running away till they explode. They turn to the small ones, and then they explode to 3 coins, collect those. And then after that, that should be the end of the stage. And coming up is a very interesting stage. Oh boy. Oh yeah, that's another thing too. You might realize that obviously in the JP side, the text is in Japanese. I should say it's in English, but it's like I don't know how to say it right. It's like it's in English, but it's like Japanese words. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyhow, this is the 4th stage. I bought another upgrade on the left side, so we're pretty much good to go on the US version. We got everything we need. I don't know if I got the speed up, what you call it? Yeah, I did. That definitely did. I'm attacking really fast. So this is one of the few stages similar to stage 1 where like the stage is very similar on both versions. It feels like they barely changed anything. There's also one of my favorite tracks in the game. It's pretty chill. But the stage does introduce something new, and it's called platforming. If you fall off, thankfully it's not instant death, but you do lose 3 balls of life. So when it comes to this part in the no upgrades run I was trying to do on the right side, it's kind of nerve-wracking because like just falling off once, it feels like instant death since I didn't upgrade my health. So if you are playing this for your first time, again, buy whatever upgrades you can. Don't Don't do what I did on the right side. Only do that if you've gotten good at the game. And even then, it's not a perfect run, and you see why later. So, I won't... Damn, there's so much happening at once. It's been a while since I commentated on a playthrough like this. The last time I did was Beast Wrestler, but that was a bit more simple since, like, it was the same region, 2 different fights, but I won't get into that. Anyhow, the platforming on the right side, on the JP side, I always go down here to avoid the rocks. Like, once you see that unicyclist appear on the top, that's when you know to go down and then just to make the jumps. If you try to make the jumps on the rocks, there's a good chance you just get hit or even, like, get interrupted and you just fall off. Which has happened in one of my failed runs. But yeah, pretty simple, just keep making the jumps. There are a lot of obstacles. It's a bit difficult to get through this part without getting hit. I almost get hit, like, it's guaranteed pretty much for me at least. But making good progress on the left. The reason why I'm going way faster in the US version is because obviously I have the upgrades. I can attack faster, I got more strength, I got all of that good stuff, and because I'm playing with no upgrades on the JP version, it's taking longer than usual, obviously. So, coming up is the boss on the left side. I still got a few more baddies to beat on the right. So I'm going to pause on the left, just until the JP side reaches the boss. And what should I talk about? Oh, I guess I should talk about the attack. So, man, there's so much. I really should have just recorded this after doing the intro, but all attacks have different strengths. The punch is kind of weak, but it's not the weakest attack. The weakest attack in this game is the double punch, in which you attack from both sides. Done by pressing A plus B. It hits from both sides, but it's incredibly weak. The punch is just slightly stronger, but it's very fast. The kick is stronger than the punch, has better reach, but it's a bit slower. And the strongest attack is the jump kick, but as I said earlier, it's kind of hard to land against regular enemies. I find it easier to land against them when it's like a big group, but it depends on your timing, really. Alright, so this is a mirror match. For this fight, kicking normally is like the best option. Jump kicks can work, but 2 things can happen. 1, you can either miss completely and he'll hit you, or 2, sometimes it feels like I land the jump kick, but he like becomes invincible from performing his own attack, and I just get hit. So for this stage, I should say for this boss, just stick with ground attacks, like ground kicks. It outreaches his attacks, and especially if you do it while like walking into him, because your kick stays out for a bit. If you do that, you should be good. His health it seems lower than usual for like, compared to the other bosses. Like the first and second boss felt like they had more health than usual than compared to this one. But yeah, just stick with kicking on the ground and you should be good. It's really not that hard of a boss fight. It's only hard if you don't like time your kicks right, really. Alright, so I'm going to buy pretty sure I just buy the burger and that's it, yeah. And you see me taking a long time on the JP side because I don't like doing this stage on the JP side without buying any upgrades, but I said, you know what, screw it. Maybe I'll just give it a good shot. Thankfully, I do get through this. If I didn't, then you wouldn't even be seeing this right now. So this is a boss rush. You can see JP side doesn't mess around. There's no enemies to like try to lower your health. You're just right in it. So you're gonna see me use the attack cancel on the right side, and on the left side, again, just gotta take my time, gotta get the burger, get hit by rocks. I'm so tired of rocks in video games. If you play any of the Disney games like Aladdin or Lion King, then like you understand where I'm coming from when it comes to rocks. Anyhow, finally reached the... Jeez, that attack canceling. Calm down, Zach. So, finally reached the boss rush on the left side. I'm sure it'll catch up soon because you see on the JP side that there is like short intervals before the next boss. But on the US side, once you defeat the boss and collect the coins, the next boss just instantly spawns, and because I have the upgrades, it shouldn't take me too long to, I should say like the left side, it shouldn't take too long for to play catch up on the right side. Like, I'm sure by like the 3rd or 4th boss, we'll see. So yeah, using jump kicks on the right, and I'm using the attack canceling on the left. Really, there's not much to say here, like these are bosses you already fought before. There is a 5th boss at the end of this though, and I guess I get to talk about him, even though there's not much to say considering the strategy is not that different. Yeah, What else can I play? Oh, by the way, the cat. So, obviously if you kick it, you get a burger. But, for some sections, I prefer just waiting for it to go all the way to the left because it automatically goes back to the right. And it doesn't keep going left, like back and forth. Once it goes to the right, it would just be gone, like that's it. But I usually just let it go left and right in case I just want to stall time or something. So yeah, okay, so now it's catching up. So now on the left side, it's finally facing the clowns. Similar to the right side right now. And soon enough, we should be facing the fourth boss now. I'm trying to think of what else to talk about this game because, again, this game's pretty simple. There's not like a whole lot I can say. There's no like advanced techniques or like some secret hidden like, I don't know, cheat code or like, I don't know, like, really like, it's as simple as it gets for a 1990 game. Damn. So really, oh, I get to talk about this, I guess. When it comes to the difficulty, at least, when I first played it, I thought it was like, I remember, man, back in the day, old YouTube, back when there was like a lot of fake AVGNs. I don't know if I could even remember the name of the person I'm referring to, but there's a lot of fake AVGNs out there, and I mean, I don't want to call them fake AVGNs, but let's just say like there was a lot of people that like got inspired by AVGN. They also wanted to write on games, and there was one person in particular that I can't remember the name of that did a quote-unquote review of DJ Boy, which is this game right here. And I've seen it. I think he just pretty much like, it was just a 5-minute video of him complaining that the game was too hard, it was impossible, and it was just quote-unquote garbage, which was the standard for like at the time when it came to like people who really wanted to like be like AVGN. And I played the game myself, and yeah, it's hard. Like I did get stomped on a lot. Like the enemies destroyed me, but it's really not that bad. Like you could do far worse. Like have they played Slaughter Sport? Like jeez. But I don't want to talk about that game though. Yeah, this is the 5th boss. Same strategy with the 1st and 2nd, just stick with jump kicks. And the reason is because he's one of the, similar to the 4th boss, he can do a jump attack, but unlike the 4th boss, you can't stop it with your own. It's pretty easy. Like right there, you might have seen it for a split second on the left, where I just hit him out of the air with my jump kick. So yeah, really easy boss all around. Just stick with jump kicks, you should be good. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Coming up soon is going to be the 6th and final boss. I want to say the 4th. But yeah, like, it's just weird that now I'm just being nostalgic about a time where like there's just a bunch of reviewers on YouTube where like they're trying to look for an excuse to call any game bad, I guess. And I don't know, I was very what's the word I'm looking for? Like when you like easily just believe anything you see or whatever without like actually trying it out yourself. Like I guess you could say it was very easy for me to be influenced, because at one point I did hate this game. That was a twist. I just played it myself and said, yo, this game's actually alright, like I think it's okay. Like, I got nothing against it. Yeah, it's hard, but you know, just get good at it. I know that's like the worst way to say it, but like, you know, like I think it's a decent game. Alright, anyways, enough of that. Finally beat the 5th boss. Nah, I can't even, now I think about it, I don't remember who the final boss for the arcade version was. I think it might have been like 2 clones of the first one. So, I buy all of the upgrades on the right because this boss, oh man, let me talk about this boss. So, like similar to the first boss, you know, it's just the same lady. And, you know, different skin color that doesn't look okay for like, you know, I don't want to get into that. Anyways, this boss, when you jump kick her, she'll teleport. Not all the time, there are sometimes that you jump kick her and she'll just get like staggered for a brief moment, but most of the time when you do a jump kick, she'll teleport, and then she will teleport either behind you or in front of you and do like a flying kick. It is possible to hit her out of this flying kick with a well-timed jump attack. You see me go for that in the left side. I don't really try to do it on the right because like I still want to try to beat the game without dying. I think I actually die like I actually do use an extra life on the left side, but on the right side I do get through it without like using one life at all. So what's the problem with this boss? Well, outside of the fact that her movement is absolutely nuts at times, it's just very easy to die. Like, I've had, I'm sure, I hope they showed it in the montage where I just had a run where she kicked me and I just, like, turned it to dust, like, just all four, I just got hit 4 times and that was it. Yeah, this boss is a mess if you try to do this without upgrades. I'm sure if I practice enough and I put in the time, I can probably do it. Maybe even in the US version too. I've never tried to play the US version without upgrades. But I'll say this now. If you try to do this without any upgrades, you like, oh boy, because the problem is that outside of the flying kick, which can hit you twice, which is like 2 bars if you don't have the defense up. Oh yeah, use the one up there. Her punch is incredibly fast. It can hit you like 2-4 times. I think there's even a moment I had where like, I'll probably play that clip at the end where like she jabbed me like 10 times and I just dropped my controller in disbelief. Because not only did I get hit, but like, it did no damage. It was a weird glitch I bumped into, so hopefully I show that off at the end. But other than that, this boss isn't too bad if you got all the upgrades. Like, you got plenty of opportunities to jump kick her. Pretty easy boss all around. The only annoying part is if she gets you in a combo and just like melts your health away. But as long as you just stay away from her when she's moving like spastically, you should be good. So I am about to win here. I don't know why I'm just messing around with the double punch. I should just like go for a jump kick. Like, that's all that's needed really. Come on, any day now, Zach. Guess I was about to turn around a bit too much. Alright, so it should be one more jump kick. Hopefully I get it here. Of course I get hit. And I think I'm just trying to make sure I don't like actually use a life here, because you know, I always love going for like no death runs and all that. Alright, there we go. Boss is defeated, and now it's time for the ending. This ending is filled with typos, but I will try my best to correct them. So here we go. Oh boy. Alright, the epilogue. And you can tell that, you know, on the right side you get images, on the left you don't, which is kind of lame. Having just rescued Maria, the only one you have ever cared for, you held her tightly in your arms, frightened that you may lose her again. Again, there's a lot of typos here. Evening swept over the cold, barren city. Colors fading into soon. Only a black silhouette could be seen. Text is very slow for some reason. You whispered, "I'm sorry that ended to come sooner. Please don't cry." I'm pretty sure that's not supposed to be a comma. And as so fate foretold, together you lived happily ever after. But yeah, this game it's pretty good. I think it's whatchamacallit. I mean, I am gonna save my opinion at the end, so I'll talk about that later. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed my run. I'm sorry if my commentary was ass. But yeah, I'll see you later. There isn't much to say about DJ Boy. The goal is straightforward, the gameplay is simple, and the presentation is alright. This is an early Sega Genesis title, so it might be unfair to expect a lot from this port. That said, I think this game is solid. I wouldn't go as far as holy shit. I wouldn't go as far as to call it a hidden gem, but it is fun to play. The difficulty alone can drive players away, but once you learn how the game works, it can become a fun yet challenging beat 'em up. Thanks for watching. My next guide will be on a fighting game that doesn't get talked about often. Until then, I'll see you later.